Joining us tonight is Jason Schiff. He's former Republican congressman from the great state of Utah, former House Oversight Committee chairman, a best-selling author, Fox Business contributor, great American. Good to have you with us. And I know the reason you're with us is you want to watch very, very close up the rally in Pennsylvania here on Fox Business.
Yeah.
Let's start with Adam Schiff because it just amuses me to even mention his name. Insisting on impeachment. Justin Amash, Republican so-called, pushing the same nonsense. Why do the American people have to put up with these clowns?
Well, if they're so adamant about bringing it up and there's so much evidence, why don't they actually do it? I mean, you have about 60 Democrats who've actually, before the Mueller report even came out, piled on and said, oh, yeah, we got to impeach the president. But they're not doing it because there is no case. There is no underlying way to do it. And I'm surprised, it shows how far, a face the nation has fallen when every single week it seems like they put on Adam Schiff. He's been spewing lies for 2 years. And I don't know why anybody listens to him at this point because he has no case.
Well, Mitt Romney, our friend Mitt Romney, said that little Adam Schiff was being courageous in his calls. Said he disagreed with him, though, after that. What do you make of that kind of nonsense?
Well, look, each of these individuals in the House and Senate, they're entitled to their own opinion, but they don't have many people following them, it's just not going to go anywhere. At this point, the Mueller report is in the rearview mirror. There was no collusion. There was no obstruction of justice. They can keep flailing about it. But what I really think they're trying to do is distract from the idea that Horowitz and Durham and some of these other names within the Department of Justice are actually pursuing the underlying premise, and that is going to be the real news.
The underlying premise is that the leadership of the Obama Justice Department, the Obama FBI, and the Obama intelligence community appear to have conspired to overthrow the President of the United States.
We have a lot of big legal news to get through today, from new closed-door transcripts just released by Republicans on the Judiciary Committee to Democrats exploding in their own closed-door meeting over whether to move forward on impeachment or not against Trump. So let's bring in former Deputy Assistant Attorney General John Yoo and former U.S. Attorney Joe DeGeneva. All right, gentlemen, I want to begin with this Don McGahn saga before we get into these transcripts. Now, he was the White House counsel, the first White House counsel for President Trump. Now, the White House today is laying out why the former counsel should defy a House subpoena to testify before the Judiciary Committee, and McGahn, through his lawyer, has agreed to skip it. Here's what President Trump said before heading to Pennsylvania tonight.
As I understand it, they're doing that for the office of the presidency for future presidents. I think it's a very important precedent. And the attorneys say that they're not doing that for me. They're doing that for the office of the president. So we're talking about the future. The Democrats want to redo, and we've had enough, and the country's had enough.
No redos. Joe, Nadler was over on CNN tonight saying they're going to hold McGahn in contempt.
Well, McGahn was the counsel to the president. He gave 30 hours of testimony to Mueller. That was not a waiver of executive privilege because Mueller is in the executive branch and was an employee of the President of the United States. So there still is executive privilege when it comes to testimony from the Hill, as well as various confidentiality privilege that the President has, such as consultation and communication. So they're on very strong legal ground. And if the House litigates contempt on McGahn, they're going to lose.
John, is it customary for folks out there who aren't well-versed in legal issues, constitutional issues such as this, executive privilege, is it common for White House counsel to testify on the Hill ever? I mean, I just don't recall it. Maybe I'm not recalling it, but I don't recall it in past administrations.
No, in fact, that's the grounds on which the Justice Department has set out in its opinion why McGahn can't testify. According to the Justice Department and lower courts that have looked at this, the aides that are closest to the president, like the chief of staff, the national security advisor, and the White House counsel, they're basically extensions of the president himself. And so just like Congress can't drag President Trump to testify, before it because that would show disrespect to a coordinate branch of government. It would be like as if Congress dragged Chief Justice John Roberts before it to testify. It can't do that either. So, too, you can't drag the closest aides to the president in front of Congress and force them to answer questions. Second, the Justice Department makes a very good point, which is if Congress really wanted to harass the president and prevent him from doing his job, doing the business of the country, it could just subpoena and keep bringing all of these staff before it.
Yeah, well, this is what this is kind of seems to be the goal here. And by the way, with the other breaking news tonight came courtesy of these closed-door transcripts that were released by the House Judiciary Committee ranking member Doug Collins. Now, these were interviews that were conducted with a number of Obama-era folks, including Attorney General Loretta Lynch. Now, here's one interesting exchange. This is Nadler's question to her. I think this is in December of last year. Do you believe the FBI or DOJ ever investigated the Trump campaign for political purposes? Lynch says, I know they did not. Nadler then says, and how would you have reacted if you had received a request of this nature from any presidential administration? She says, I would have declined it and told them how inappropriate it was. Joe, after what we now know, what about that?
Well, that's a sloppy question because he said for political purposes. But she would say they were investigated for non-political
legitimate purposes.
In fact, that's the defense now of the Obama administration, DOJ, FBI people. Well, when we said there was no spying, we meant there was no politically motivated spying. There was spying, but it was because we really believed that the Russians were influencing them. Look, this is a scandal of immense proportions. The fact that they have to lie about it now after denying it just shows you how bad off they are and how frightened they are of Bill Barr.
And John, real quick, there's also an issue with what Comey claimed Loretta Lynch said about the Hillary Clinton email investigation. And this is another quote from the December 19th interview. She said, I was quite surprised that Comey characterized it in this way. We did have a conversation about it, so I wasn't surprised that he remembered that we met and talked about it, but I was quite surprised that this was his characterization of it because that was not how I conveyed it to him. Certainly not how it was intended, calling the probe a matter instead of an investigation. John, what do you make of that?
First, I can't imagine a worse punishment than making people read through all these transcripts of Obama.
Thank you. Those are my producers tonight.
I mean, I've been reading through these for the last hour. It's painful watching them point the fingers at each other. But you're exactly right. There's a lot of pages about, is this a matter? Who decided to essentially clear Hillary Clinton in those first press conferences? As you can tell, as you're suggesting, Laura, neither Comey nor Loretta Lynch now wants to take responsibility for essentially clearing Hillary Clinton. But one of them did because they're both in charge. The FBI and the Justice Department, they're in charge, and they shouldn't, I don't think, have ever gone public and cleared her in the first place. But they went and took that momentous step and started this whole chain reaction of events. I think that led us into the investigation of the Trump campaign.
We're just getting the surface of this tonight because there's so much. Joe, before we let you go, Justin Amash calling for the impeachment of President Trump, a Republican congressman, never Trumper, hates Trump. What's going on real quick?
A libertarian loser who was dear friends with Mark Sanford and is very angry about the way Mark Sanford was treated. So this is get back time. He's a 4-year-old. And if he's such a great libertarian, why isn't he concerned about the spying that went on by the Obama administration? He's a loser. If he doesn't care about the FISA court, cares about impeaching the president, that's ridiculous.
Buffoonish. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much.